Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to How to Build. Today we're going to be talking about RelicKeeper. If you're only here for artifact and mastery suggestions, I'm going to throw those up on the screen now. So feel free to pause and use those as you will. If that's all you're here for and you feel like you got what you came for, like the video. And if you want to see what I put out in the future, be sure and subscribe on the way out. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching and I'll see you in the next one. For anybody that wants to stick around, I'm going to be doing an analysis on RelicKeeper. We're going to talk about his stats and skills and, you know, all that fun stuff. So, let's go ahead and get into it. He is a fusion champ, and he is very clearly designed to farm campaign. And I feel like a lot of people think that's where his utility ends. They don't look much past his ability to farm the campaign. And I think that's a shame because the dude is a beast. So I'm going to kind of campaign for him a little bit here. And maybe we'll even go take a look at mine at some point during the analysis. But base stats, 14,000 base HP. That's about on par, I think, with an epic attacker. Base attack is 1360. Not bad base attack. Defense is a little bit on the higher end, I would say. 980, not bad. And then speed is 90. So the speed is low. But in my experience, it has not been a problem. For the things that I've used him for and the champs that I've used him with, it has not really even been noticeable. I'm actually surprised to see that it's 90. So let's talk about the skills. Attacks one enemy, grants an extra turn if the target is killed. So this is really cool. And this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say he's very clearly designed to farm campaign. The campaign enemies are generally pretty squishy. And if he can one-shot them, he just gets turns until everybody's dead. As long as he's fast enough to get the first turn, and he's strong enough to kill everybody in one hit, he'll just knock them down, go to the next wave, knock them down, go to the next wave. Something to keep in mind on this is that if he revenges, if he counterattacks, or if you've got retaliation or anything that makes him counterattack, it will not proc. You cannot get a kill on a counterattack and then continue to get turns. It has to be on his turn. But it's still very strong and very aggravating when you're on the receiving end of it. So that's his first skill. His second and last active skill places a 50% increase attack buff on himself for 4 turns. 4 turns. And grants himself an extra turn. So, he will begin a battle, he will buff himself. He will kill everybody. You'll go to the next wave, he will buff himself, he will kill everybody. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It's a very strong it's very simple, but it's very strong. Then he's got a passive. When he gets hit by an enemy, places a 15% continuous heal buff on himself for 2 turns. So there, on your path to making him strong enough to one-shot everything, when he's not strong enough and he gets hit, he'll put a continuous heal on himself. Now, it's on a cooldown, so it's not going to happen every time he gets hit, right? But it's still there. It's still a little bit of sustain built into him that you don't have to waste a turn on. And then 40% attack buff in campaign to all allies. So if we do a little bit of math there, 40%, 50%. Right out of the gate, he's got 90% more attack than it looks like he has. He's almost got double the attack that is actually right here. So his base attack is like over 2,700 basically. Around 2,700. Crazy. The dude can smack, all right? Now, as far as how to build him, before we talk about how to build him, let's talk about whether or not he's worth the fusion. Because I see this talked about a lot. I used to see it talked about a lot. I don't see people talking about RelicKeeper anymore. No one really seems to be that interested in the fusion. No one really seems to be going after this dude. And the sooner you can get this dude, the more he's going to change your game. He is not really that hard to build strong enough to farm campaign for you at a high level. He does not require an insane amount of high quality artifacts. You also don't have to have a fully decked out mastery tree. When we go in and look at masteries in a second, since I have him and he's built and I can show him to you, I'll show you the point where you should get your masteries to that's going to make your campaign farming life much, much easier. But if you're on the fence about getting this dude, or you've had some people tell you he's not worth it, I'm gonna nudge you in the other direction and say absolutely he's worth the effort and the resources to get. I fused him early. I 6-starred him first. I epic toned him up, and I have not regretted it even slightly for 1 second. He is an excellent champ, and I got so much utility out of him. I used him everywhere. I used him in Spider. I used him in Clan Boss. I took this dude everywhere, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But as far as sets you can put on him, there were a lot of people telling me early on, you've got to put him on lifesteal or he's not going to do anything for you. I've never put a lifesteal artifact on him, and I've never needed to. So I'm going to put lifesteal on the list because it's a very popular set, it's a very safe set, and it's a pretty strong set through the mid-game. He's doing heavy damage. He's going to keep himself healed if he takes any damage at all through the campaign. Lifesteal's a pretty safe set. It's going to make it a little bit easier on you to build him to survive through the campaign, but it's really not mandatory. And these are the 4 sets we're talking about real quick. Another fun one that I think isn't necessarily like, meta or anything, but a Frost set might be kind of fun on him. If he's not one-shotting everything yet, enemies that are hitting him, there's potential to freeze him. Just if you don't have a lot of speed on him, could help him out a little bit. Maybe in the dungeon waves, if you're using him on a dungeon team and he's getting hit, there's potential for him to freeze and kind of give your team some extra turns, things like that. It could be a fun one, but it's kind of more of a random one. That's just one I wanted to throw in because I thought it was interesting. Stun set could be decent on him. Anybody that he's not killing, there's potential for him to stun. And then a really strong set on him would be Savage. Ignoring defense is really strong. The less of your damage output that gets mitigated by defense, the better. So cutting 25% of the enemy's defense out, especially for someone like RelicKeeper, is going to be really helpful. And then, of course, there's all the very obvious sets: the offense, crit rate, crit damage, speed, cruel, the divines, divine offense, divine speed, divine crit rate. All the things that are fairly self-explanatory, and a lot of which you're going to have access to earlier in the game. By the time you are able to fuse him, you're probably going to have some decent offense gear, some decent crit rate gear, maybe some decent speed gear, and he can operate just fine on just those sets. He does not need a lot of fancy stuff. The Frost set, for example, it's more of a meme idea than anything. I just figured I would throw it in because I thought about it, thought it might be kind of funky, but he can operate at a high level with very basic artifact sets. So don't think you got to get real funky on him or anything like that. But as far as utility outside of campaign, as I said, for a long time I was using him everywhere. I worked his mastery tree down to War Master. And I was getting about 2 million damage out of him on Clan Boss. I was using him in Spider. I was using him in Ice Golem. He's actually pretty nice in Ice Golem. I was using him in Dragon. I was using him in every potion dungeon. Now that Faction Wars is out, I'm using him in there. He's an excellent arena champ, especially in the lower to mid levels, through Bronze and Silver. If you can get this dude smacking hard and you can pair him with a decent defense breaker like War Maiden, for example, he will wipe out a whole team one at a time, just like they're a campaign wave, and it won't be an issue. I've also seen him on defense when I was in my earlier days, and I've been cleaned up by him before. I'll go in with my cleave, and he'll survive, and with this little bit of health he's got left, he'll wipe my whole team out. So he's a dangerous dude, and he's dangerous in a lot of places. So don't let nobody tell you he's not good. He's a bad dude. Let's talk about his masteries real quick. I'll show you mine, and we'll make a couple points on these masteries real quick. All right, so this is what I've got rocking on him right now. I've got a little bit of a mixed set on him. I had this, I think I had Cruel on him and I moved some stuff around, but this is what he's sitting with right now. So he's a plus 3,000 attack, 100 crit rate, and decent crit damage. Accuracy is just by default, but I didn't put speed boots on him. You can put speed boots on him if you want. I have never put speed boots on him. He's never been faster than this. For most of his career in my account, he was at like plus 18 speed, I think. Plus 15 or plus 18. Because again, I just needed him to be faster than the first enemy in each wave of the campaign. Then everywhere else I was using him, I was usually running him with Apothecary. So he was getting speed boost and he was getting turn meter boost. So I didn't need him to have the speed. So yeah, attack, crit rate, crit damage, and speed. It's really all you got to focus on this dude. And the speed, in my opinion, is the least important one. Because again, he doesn't need to be that fast. He just needs to be faster than the first enemies in the campaign. But for the points I wanted to make on Masteries, you get him through this tier. You get him to tier 3 on both of these. There's some really nice stuff in here. Of course, to kick things off, we've got crit rate, crit damage bump. Here, we've got a damage bump when he's got full HP. Ideally, he'll always have full HP, right? He's going to be faster than the first enemy of the campaign wave. He's going to one-shot everybody. He never takes damage. He's always got full HP. He's always got the damage boost, right? Here, he gets a little bit of a speed bump for anybody he kills, up to 18 speed. So he only gets faster as the battle goes on. And here, increases damage inflicted by 8% for the first hit on each enemy. So again, as long as he's one-shotting everybody, he's never having to hit him twice, he's always got this damage bump. So we've got 40% from his aura, we've got 50% from his self-buff, we've got 5% from Heart of Glory, we've got 8% from Ruthless Ambush. We're shooting his damage up so insanely high. With so little effort, you know what I mean? It's all almost automatic. The hardest part is grinding some of these green scrolls. And then over here, the only thing that really super matters over here is this one. Heals this champion by 10% of their max HP when they kill an enemy target. This is basically lifesteal without putting a lifesteal set on him. Its cooldown is 1 turn. Every time he kills, it's 1 turn, right? So if he gets hit and then can start to clean up again, he'll heal himself right back up. I've seen him do it quite a few times. The other stuff over here is not super important. You know, some of it's nice, but if you can get him through this 3rd tier, there will be a noticeable change in his effectiveness, especially if you're struggling to get him to farm campaign reliably for you. Get him through this 3rd tier, and it'll change. I promise you it'll change. If his artifacts are decent at all, it'll change. So he's a bad dude, man. He's a bad dude. Don't sleep on this guy. Don't ignore this dude, because people like to talk bad about him in the chat. He's not a bad champion. I still use him in some places. You know, I still try to play around with him in some places. It's a little harder for him to be viable in the really late stages of the dungeons, but it's going to take you a long time to get to the late stages of the dungeons if you're earlier in the game. So he's well worth the resources. In my opinion, he's worth the essences, he's worth the tomes, he's worth the energy to level up and 6-star and do all that with, because you're going to get so much out of him from the time you fuse him earlier in the game to the point where you outgrow him. It's well worth it. And again, Faction Wars just came out, and he's, you know, I imagine he's going to be pretty solid for me there. So get him and put him to work. He's a good champ. He's going to change your game for you. The earlier you are in the game when you get him, the bigger of an impact he's going to have on your game. So don't sleep on him. And I think that'll wrap it up. I think I've made my case for him. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I have persuaded some of you to go get him if you don't have him already. I don't know why you'd be here if you didn't have him, but you know, it is what it is. So thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.